Ever since Pac-Man became gaming's first mascot, companies realized the true power of mascots. Nintendo gave us Mario in the 80s. Sega sprinted to success with Sonic in 1991, but what about PlayStation? Enter Crash Bandicoot, the crate-smashing, fruit-loving whirlwind who became a PlayStation legend. This is the evolution of Crash Bandicoot. In 1994, Naughty Dog set out to create a new platforming star, inspired by Looney Tunes, especially Taz, the Tasmanian Devil. Their first idea was Willy the Wombat. Then someone grabbed a wildlife guide, found out bandicoots were real, and Crash Bandicoot was born. Why Crash? Because he's the master of smashing crates, of course. Rejected names included Wuzzle the Wombat and Ollie the Ottsel, an otter-weasel combo. Funny enough, the Ottsel idea later became Daxter in Jak and Daxter. But Crash almost didn't exist at all. His first real obstacle wasn't Dr. Cortex, it was Ken Kutaragi, the father of PlayStation. Kutaragi hated Crash, partly because of his bizarre original backstory. Dr. Cortex had brainwashed Crash with non-stop media, turning him into a chatty, obnoxious character. Basically, an internet troll before the internet had trolls. Once Naughty Dog hit the mute button on Crash, Sony convinced Kutaragi that the crate-smashing Bandicoot would take on gaming legends Sonic and Mario. What came next was a game that would forever change the PlayStation legacy. In 1996, Sony and Universal Interactive launched Crash Bandicoot as a PlayStation exclusive. With its 3D visuals, catchy music, and crate-smashing gameplay, it quickly stood out. Players dodged TNT, collected Wumpa fruits, which, by the way, are not apples, and smashed crates, originally added to fill boring parts, but they quickly became iconic. Crash's mission? Save Tawna, his Bandicoot crush, from the evil Dr. Neo Cortex. Did you know Tawna's design was inspired by Pamela Anderson, but with fur and a pair of big assets? Yeah, the 90s didn't care about subtlety. Unlike Sonic's side-scrolling adventures, Crash Bandicoot had a camera that followed Crash from behind, earning it the hilarious nickname during development, Sonic's Ass Game. Thankfully, Naughty Dog added levels where Crash ran toward the screen, showing his expressive face and making him more than just a furry ass. PlayStation's hardware in the 90s was as limited as Cortex's world domination plans. It could only display 900 polygons on screen. Crash himself used 532 of them. Pushing the console to its limits, despite these limitations, Crash held his own against Super Mario 64. Which redefined 3D platforming with open-world levels and smooth controls. Meanwhile, Sega's Sonic 3D Blast struggled to transition onto 3D, giving Crash Bandicoot the perfect chance to shine. The game smashed expectations, selling 6.8 million copies and earning the gold prize in Japan for sales of over 500,000 units, the first non-Japanese game to do so. Critics praised its graphics, among the best seen on consoles at the time, and for defining 3D platformers. Crash Bandicoot became one of the best-selling PlayStation games, though his second adventure would become even more successful. Fun fact, the game originally had a cartoon intro with a theme song created by Universal Cartoon Studios, but Sony scrapped it to highlight the game's 3D graphics. The cartoon stayed hidden until it leaked online in 2015. Most especially Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back arrived in 1997, replacing Tawna, the Baywatch Bandicoot, with Crash's smarter, more kid-friendly sister Coco. It turns out Sony Computer Entertainment Japan didn't love the idea of a super sexy Bandicoot. Cortex also got a wacky sidekick, Dr. N. Jin, an insane cyborg with a missile in his head. inspired by game director Jason Rubin's awful migraines. This time, Crash had to collect 25 crystals from levels found in warp rooms, showing off new moves like high spin jumps, body slams, and sliding attacks. He even rode a baby polar bear in one level. Naughty Dog spent 13 months and $2 million, making sure it was worth every penny. Spoiler, it was. The graphics were considered a quantum leap over its predecessor, and the new mechanics and engine paid off. An 89% score on game rankings, beating the original's 80% and 7.6 million copies sold, making it the second best-selling Crash game. Here's a creepy twist. Crash's flattened death animation was changed in Japan because it looked like the aftermath of a real-life serial killer who was still on the loose. Yikes! Riding high on success, Crash geared up for his next adventure, a game so good, critics called it his best ever. Fun fact, Crash's goofy victory dance came straight from a Japanese ad where a guy in a Crash suit busted the same moves. Naughty Dog loved it so much, they added it to the game and its sequels. 1 year later, Crash Bandicoot Warped brought time-traveling chaos to the PlayStation. Crash and Coco must race through time, grabbing crystals to stop Cortex, Tropy, and the evil Yuka Yuka from taking over the world. No pressure. The time-twisting machine lets you jump into levels, much like the warp rooms from Crash Bandicoot 2. Beat bosses, and Crash gets stronger, faster, and jumpier. Basically, a Bandicoot on steroids. The third game stands out with vehicle levels, motorcycles, planes, jet skis, even a tiger for Coco, and a baby T-Rex for Crash. As a sneaky bonus, Warped included a hidden Spyro the Dragon demo, unlocked with a cheat code. Marketing genius. Critics loved Warped, with GameSpot calling it the best Crash yet, and Metacritic awarding it a 91, the highest score of any Crash Bandicoot game. After racing through time itself, the next logical step was the racetrack. Crash's journey was about to shift gears. Literally. Fun fact, for a Crash Bandicoot commercial, a guy in a Crash costume was sent to Nintendo's front door, taunting them with, "Your worst nightmare has arrived."
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived. Pack up your
Bold move, right? Fast forward to today, and you can play Crash Bandicoot games on the Nintendo Switch. Oh, the irony. After his successful trilogy, Crash hit the gas with Crash Team Racing. Mario had Mario Kart, Sonic had Sonic Drift, and now it was Crash's turn to claim the track. Players raced through various modes, featuring 15 familiar faces to choose from and one oversized ego, Nitrous Oxide, the villain threatening to take over Earth. Developed on a $2.4 million budget, Crash Team Racing quickly became a fan favorite. GameSpot might have called it a great Mario Kart clone. But an 88 Metacritic score and 4 million copies sold proved a Bandicoot could hold the steering wheel. Sure, Mario Kart 64's 10 million sales still crowned Mario as king, but while Sonic barely got off the starting line, Crash carved his place on the podium, showing he could crush it on four wheels too. In 2000, Crash Bash stepped up to challenge Mario Party, but instead of delivering the fun, it brought 28 mini-games and a big old bag of disappointment. With Naughty Dog out of the picture, things went, well, let's call it experimental. Critics labeled it boring and lacking originality, which for a party game is kind of a deal breaker. Selling 1.9 million copies isn't bad, but that 68 Metacritic score? Thankfully, the next main installment of Crash Bandicoot was right around the corner. Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex landed on PlayStation 2 in 2001, introducing Crush Bandicoot, Cortex's cyborg enforcer, and the evil elementals. Originally called Crash Bandicoot Worlds, the game was supposed to feature free-roaming levels with puzzles and planets, crafted by series veteran Mark Cerny. But behind-the-scenes drama between Universal, Cerny, and Sony forced developer Traveler's Tales to scrap it all and start over with a tight deadline. Multiplayer? Mini-bosses? A mech suit battle with Crunch? all that got tossed in the bin. Critics weren't kind. One summed it up perfectly. When the strongest feeling I get from a game is the desire to play its predecessors, something's not quite right. With a 66 Metacritic score, it lacked originality but still sold 2.8 million copies. Nostalgia's a heck of a drug. In 2002, it hit Xbox and GameCube, marking the end of Crash's run as the PlayStation's Golden Bandicoot. Now free from exclusivity, Crash jumped onto the Game Boy Advance with Crash Bandicoot: The Huge Adventure, followed by its sequel a year later. While not groundbreaking, it marked Crash's handheld debut, a win for fans on the go. Then, in 2004, Crash and Spyro teamed up for a crossover that sounded epic on paper. Crash faced off against Ripto. Spyro battled Cortex. It had potential, but the execution? Let's just say it hit more potholes than power-ups. Critics weren't kind, and fans? They were too busy not buying it, making it the worst-selling Crash game. Originally planned as Team Racing 2, Crash Nitro Kart launched in 2003 across multiple consoles, even landing on the Nokia N-Gage and mobile phones, because who wouldn't want kart racing on a brick phone? It also introduced cutscenes to the Crash universe. In 2004, Crash teamed up with his old rival, Dr. Neo Cortex, in Crash Twinsanity. Made by Traveler's Tales for PS2 and Xbox, the unlikely pair faced the evil twins, inspired by the lead artist's girlfriend's aggressive cockatoos. The game was meant to be more serious and edgy, but after Ratchet and Clank got there first, they said, "Screw it, let's make it funny." This change introduced free-roaming exploration, letting players move smoothly between levels. While the open-world design was a breath of fresh air compared to the claustrophobic levels of older games, the platforming was not. With a 66 on Metacritic and just 800,000 copies sold, this was less main series glory and more main series oops. Next up was Crash Tag Team Racing, where players could clash vehicles, combining them into a weaponized ride complete with a turret. Sounds awesome, right? Well, until you spent more time staring at loading screens and realizing the camera is the ultimate boss fight. It scored a 69, a number that's ironic because nobody's getting any pleasure from this. But then, it got far worse. In 2006, Crash Boom Bang hit the Nintendo DS and hit rock bottom. This party game scored a shameful 2 of 10 from IGN and a tragic 37 on Metacritic. Why the hate? Lazy, uninspired gameplay, paired with controls so bad they'd make your thumbs quit. Eurogamer even joked that it slipped through the cracks in quality control and should only be used to destroy a child's love of video games. Then Crash of the Titans went full combat mode, aiming to bring back the challenge of the original trilogy with a Street Fighter Light moveset. But here's the twist. They didn't even release it in Japan, the birthplace of fighting games. That's like making sushi and forgetting the rice. For co-op enthusiasts, Player 2 could join as Carbon Crash, a white-furred version of Crash that looked like he'd been left in the freezer too long. Despite the flashy combat, critics missed the puzzles and exploration. GameSpot roasted it, saying you could swap Crash out for any cartoony platform hero and no one would notice. Fun fact, after 11 years of silence, Crash finally spoke. His first word? Pancakes.
Now let's go home and eat pancakes! Pancakes!
Yep, after 11 years of action and stopping bad guys, this is what he says. Many fans were less than pleased and likely hoped he'd retire from speaking altogether. As mobile games took off, Crash raced in with Nitro Kart 3D and even became the best-selling paid app on the App Store for a while. A sequel followed, turning iPhones and iPods into steering wheels and adding online multiplayer. For platformer fans, 2009 also brought Crash Bandicoot: Mutant Island, before the series shifted back to its main adventures. Crash Mind Over Mutant made its debut in the era when Blackberries with keyboards were peak technology. As the 7th main game, it mixes platforming with beat-em-up madness. Crash and Aku Aku battle to save their friends from a mind control device, a parody of early iPhones and Blackberries. Funny how it predicted our future phone addiction, right? The game swaps classic levels for mission-based gameplay. NPCs hand out tasks, while players grab power-ups like golden stopwatches for timed minigames, red running shoes for supercharged speed and kicks, and quad damage for maximum destruction. Think of it as Crash on steroids. It was seen as better than Crash of the Titans, but the clunky camera dragged it down to a score of 72. A DS version? A disaster from another developer. IGN gave it a savage 3.2, and Metacritic buried it with a 45. Fun fact, kids under 18 could enter a fan art contest to get their work in the game, their names in the credits, and a free copy to brag about. Not bad for some doodles. But then Crash vanished for years. No goodbye, no farewell, not even a pancakes. Then Activision CEO Eric Hirshberg came to the rescue, saying, "I love Crash Bandicoot. Those were some of my favorite video games growing up, and I would love to find a way to bring him back if we could." Thankfully, the universe listened. Nearly a decade later, Crash came crashing back into our lives, bringing his glory days and our nostalgia back in HD perfection. In 2017, Crash made his grand comeback on PlayStation 4 with Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy, a remaster of the first 3 classics. Vicarious Visions and Activision hit the nostalgia jackpot, combining the original gameplay with gorgeous HD visuals that made the old levels feel brand new. But veterans quickly realized this remaster wasn't messing around. It was way harder than the originals. Time trials were added to the first 2 games, and trying to cheese Tiny Tiger? The crowd would throw actual cheese at you. Well-deserved punishment. By 2018, the trilogy expanded to Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch, showing Crash was no longer just a PlayStation legend. With awards for Best Remaster, an 80 on Metacritic, and setting a sales record with over 20 million copies sold, it didn't just revive Crash's reputation, it resurrected an entire franchise. Fun fact, Stormy Ascent was a secret level cut from the original Crash Bandicoot for being absurdly brutal. Developer Taylor Kirosaki said, "It was playable, but just too damn difficult, and we ran out of time to make it easier. It remained on the disc as it was less risky just leaving it rather than trying to remove it. It was basically hidden, but it was there." Eventually unleashed as DLC in the Insane Trilogy, and I have to say, it's not that bad. It just cost me 73 lives and my sanity. 2019 brought a remastered Crash Team Racing, combining Crash Nitro Kart and Crash Tag Team Racing, with kart customization, 2 adventure modes, and a whopping 56 characters. It was a full-blown Crash reunion on wheels. The game took home awards like Best Racing Game in 2019, and fans loved it until the microtransactions showed up to crash the party. Still, it scored a solid 80.
Everything getting harder to find. Everybody jumping out of their mind. Everybody going out of their skin. See, we get to the end, but that's where we begin. You feel it?
In 2020, Crash Bandicoot fans finally got what they'd been craving, a new main game titled It's About Time. Crash and Coco team up to stop Cortex and nefarious Tropy from destroying the multiverse, as if 2020 wasn't chaotic enough. The game sticks to its classic platforming fun, but adds quantum masks to spice things up, letting players mess with levels in creative ways. As for the difficulty, it's turned up a notch. The characters got some love too, with multiple playable characters and fresh faces to keep things exciting. Tana stepped away from her damsel in distress days, making a bold return with a Sekiro-inspired grappling hook. And for the first time in the series, Crash introduced swearing.
Ah, bastards!
developer Toys for Bob knew what made Crash special, nailing the vibe with a Jackass meets Looney Tunes charm, a nod to Naughty Dog's original. In 2021, the game launched on next-gen consoles, PC, and Nintendo Switch, with 4K visuals and faster loading. With over 5 million copies sold and a score of 85, Crash Bandicoot 4 reminded everyone why they love the wacky Bandicoot. In 2021, Swedish developer King launched Crash Bandicoot On the Run, an endless runner that smashed records, hitting 20 million downloads in just 4 days, even outpacing Temple Run 2. By 2023, however, the servers shut down, closing the chapter on Crash's mobile adventure. In 2023, Crash Team Rumble brought the wacky world of Crash Bandicoot into a competitive 4 vs 4 multiplayer arena. The goal? Hoard as much Wumpa fruit as possible while sabotaging the other team. Available on PlayStation and Xbox consoles with cross-platform play, the game had big multiplayer dreams. But with mixed reviews and a score of 71, it failed to revive the franchise. Reports even claim Crash Bandicoot 5 was canceled after this stumble. Tough break for Crash, but maybe he's charging up for a legendary comeback. Fun fact, in 2014, scientists named a 15-million-year-old fossil Crash Bandicoot after the video game character. The fossil belonged to an ancient relative of modern bandicoots, discovered where no one expected, essentially crashing into history. Let's hope the Bandicoot we love doesn't face extinction too. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for joining us on this journey of Crash Bandicoot. We've also covered the evolution of PlayStation and other gaming legends. Want to see the evolution of Spyro? Let us know. More adventures are coming your way soon, and as Crash himself would say, pancakes!